All right, so let's take a deep dive, shall we, into the future of trucking. Specifically, we're looking at the year 2025, and we're going to be focusing on a newly registered company. It's called 258 Transports LLC. And yeah, that name is going to be part of the mystery we unpack today. We've got some company data from GovTribe and some trend analysis from a trucking software provider, TransPlus. So think of this deep dive as like a cheat sheet for understanding not just this one company, which is pretty intriguing, I'll admit, but also the bigger forces that are, at play in the trucking world.
Yeah, it's like we're piecing together a puzzle, right?
Yeah,
We have these like intriguing pieces of information, and we need to figure out how they all fit together.
exactly. So GovTribe, they give us the basics. 258 Transports LLC, they registered just this year. And they're structured as a partnership. They're self-certified as minority-owned, woman-owned, and a small disadvantaged business, which, by the way, that means they meet certain criteria to give them access to special government programs and contracts. But here's where it gets interesting. There's no location listed, there's no financials, no employee count. It's a bit of a ghost company right now.
Yeah. It is fascinating, though, that what we do have is a solid clue. Their NAICS code, that's that classification system that businesses use, and theirs indicates specialized freight trucking, local. This tells us a lot, actually, about their potential operations, even without all the usual financial details.
Okay, so NAICS code, for those of you like me who don't have all those memorized, it basically tells us what kind of business they are, right?
Exactly right.
So specialized freight, that means they're probably hauling something specific, maybe refrigerated goods, hazardous materials, who knows? And then local suggests they're not doing these cross-country runs, they're sticking to like a particular region.
Right, yeah. They could be serving a very specific market,
Yeah.
maybe even hyperlocal, focus on a really tight geographic area. Now, this might seem a little at odds with some of the broader trucking trends we're seeing, especially what Transplus is predicting for 2025. They're forecasting a significant increase in long-distance freight. Think, stuff coming in from ports and needing to be moved inland.
So how does a small, potentially hyperlocal trucking company, how do they survive, let alone thrive, right?
Yeah.
With the big monies in long haul. Are we thinking they're like doomed before they even start?
Well, not necessarily. This is where things get kind of interesting. Every long-haul journey eventually needs that final step, that last mile delivery. So imagine 25/8. They could be positioning themselves as the go-to for that specialized local delivery from major distribution hubs. So they're not competing with the big rigs. They're actually complementing them, filling a crucial gap in the supply chain.
Okay, so they're not going head to head with the industry giants. They're finding a way to work with them. Clever. But let's talk about another giant in the room, shall we? Technology. TransPlus highlights how essential things like transportation management systems, TMS, are becoming, and electronic logging devices, ELDs, TMS, for anyone who doesn't know, helps companies manage their whole operation, right? From routes to driver schedules. While ELDs track drivers' hours for safety. This all sounds expensive and complicated, not exactly startup friendly.
Yeah, that's true. The traditional TMS systems could be a barrier for a new company. But there's been a surge in cloud-based TMS solutions recently that are designed specifically for small to medium businesses. So 25/8 could actually leverage these affordable and scalable options to be competitive from day one without a huge upfront investment.
So they could basically have the brains of a big trucking company. But in like a nimble startup package, I'm starting to see how they might fit into this evolving landscape. But there's another tech trend that TransPlus points to, autonomous trucking. It's easy to imagine this being like the death knell for these small trucking companies who can't afford to invest in self-driving rigs.
Yeah, it's not that simple, though. Full automation, that's still years away. What we're seeing now is the adoption of sort of semi-autonomous features, things like adaptive cruise control, lane assist, automatic emergency braking. These features actually level the playing field. For newcomers like 25/8,
Okay, hold on. How does having some automation help a tiny company compete with companies that have like hundreds of trucks?
well, think about it. If 25/8 invests early in these safety features, they can attract and retain better drivers. Because these technologies, they reduce driver fatigue, improve safety records, and they could even lower insurance costs, all things that give them an edge.
So they're not replacing drivers with robots, they're empowering drivers with technology. That makes a lot of sense. But even with the best tech, the trucking industry is facing like a massive driver shortage, right? How does that factor into 25/8's potential success?
Well, this is where their certifications as a minority-owned and woman-owned business could be a game changer. Think about the potential to tap into a more diverse talent pool. Attract drivers who might feel overlooked by traditional trucking companies. So they're not just competing for the same limited pool of drivers, they're expanding it.
They're not just riding the wave of change, they're changing who gets to ride the wave. I love that.
Mhm.
But even with diverse talent and smart tech, the trucking industry is still incredibly competitive. What could give 25/8 that extra push to.
To stand out.
Yes.
Well, that's where their specialized designation comes in. And the rise of electric and alternative fuel vehicles. What if they combine those two trends? Imagine 25/8 becoming the go-to for local delivery of, let's say, temperature-sensitive pharmaceuticals, using a fleet of electric trucks. They're eco-friendly, reliable, and appealing to clients who are increasingly focused on sustainability.
So they're not just moving goods, they're moving the industry forward. But I can't help but think this is all based on very little concrete information about 25/8. I mean, we're making educated guesses here, but it feels like we're missing a piece of the puzzle.
You're right. And that missing piece might be the most intriguing one of all. Their name. What does 25/8 signify? Is it a hint at their work ethic, their commitment to exceeding expectations? Or is it like a clever marketing ploy, designed to create buzz and intrigue? That's the question we'll explore next.
All right, listeners, put on your detective hats, because we're about to get deep into the mystery of 25/8 transport.
All right, let's unpack this name 25/8 because it could be a clue to their whole strategy. It definitely doesn't fit the mold of like traditional trucking names. It's more mysterious, maybe even a little rebellious.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, we're not playing by the old rules.
Right.
It makes you wonder, are they trying to, signal something specific to potential clients or investors? Or is it just to get attention in a crowded market?
Oh, it's definitely attention grabbing. But let's consider some possible interpretations. What if 25/8 represents their commitment to going above and beyond? Exceeding the usual 24/7 service. Maybe they're positioning themselves as the company. That's always available, always delivering.
So they're not just meeting industry standards,
Yeah.
they're redefining them. It's like that extra hour in the day is their competitive advantage. I can see that working, especially if they're targeting clients who need urgent or time-sensitive deliveries.
Exactly. Think about those pharmaceutical deliveries we mentioned. Every minute could be critical. Or imagine they're specializing in, high-value goods that need constant monitoring and security. 25/8 could be their way of saying, we never clock out when it comes to your cargo.
Okay, so the name could be a powerful statement about their work ethic and commitment. But what if it's more about challenging the status quo? The trucking industry has a certain image,
Yeah.
and 25/8 feels like it's breaking away from that.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle. What if they're using the name to attract a new generation of drivers and employees, people who are looking for something different, a company that's, you know, pushing boundaries and embracing innovation?
It's like they're saying, forget the old stuffy image of trucking. This is a new era.
Yeah.
They could appeal to tech-savvy drivers who are excited about working with electric trucks and cutting-edge software. And that ties in nicely with another major trend we need to consider: supply chain resilience.
Right. The pandemic really shook things up, exposed the vulnerabilities of,
Yeah.
global supply chains. So companies are looking for ways to build more robust and adaptable systems. Could 25/8 be positioning themselves as a solution to this problem?
Okay, so how does a small local trucking company play a role in global supply chain resilience? It seems like that's more of a big picture issue.
It is. But think about it. As companies diversify their suppliers and build more regional networks, they need reliable partners at every level. 25/8, with their potential focus on specialized and local delivery, could be a key piece of that puzzle.
So instead of relying solely on these massive long-haul trucking companies, that could be disrupted by global events, right? Businesses could partner with smaller, more agile companies like 25/8 to
Yeah.
create a more resilient network.
Exactly. They become the shock absorbers, ensuring smooth delivery, even when there are disruptions. Further up the supply chain, and their minority and woman-owned status could be another asset here.
You're thinking about those government contracts again?
Right. Absolutely. Government agencies, they're increasingly focused on working with diverse suppliers,
Yeah.
especially those that can contribute to a more resilient national supply chain. So 25/8 could be in a prime position to capitalize on this trend.
So they're not just a trucking company, they're a strategic partner,
Yeah.
helping businesses and government agencies build a more robust and reliable system. And that brings us back to their name, 25/8. Maybe it's not just about working harder, but working smarter. right? Finding innovative solutions to complex challenges.
It's all starting to come together, isn't it?
Hmm.
But here's a question for you and our listeners. What if the name is actually a distraction? What if it's designed to make us focus on, their work ethic or their image, while they're quietly building something completely different behind the scenes?
Ooh, I like that. It's like a magic trick. We're so focused on the flashy name that we're missing the real sleight of hand. So what's the trick then? What could 25/8 be developing that we haven't even considered?
Well, we've talked about technology, sustainability, and supply chain resilience. But what about the human element? What if they're building a company culture that's like radically different from the traditional trucking world?
You mean like treating their drivers incredibly well, offering amazing benefits, creating a supportive and inclusive work environment?
Exactly. Imagine a trucking company that prioritizes driver well-being, invests in their training and development, and empowers them to be part of the decision-making process.
They could attract and retain top talent in an industry that's,
Yeah.
struggling to find qualified drivers. Like they're turning the driver shortage into a driver surplus by being the best place to work.
And that, in turn, translates into better service, greater
Yeah.
reliability, and ultimately, a more successful business.
So maybe the real meaning of 25/8 isn't about working more hours, but about creating a company where people are truly valued and respected.
It's a compelling thought, isn't it? And it highlights something crucial: the trucking industry. It's about more than just trucks and technology. It's about people, the drivers, the dispatchers, the mechanics, the warehouse workers, all the individuals who keep the wheels turning and the goods flowing.
And that's something 25/8, with their cryptic name and their potential for disruption, seems to understand.
Now, we don't have all the answers yet. We're still piecing together the puzzle. And there are likely more surprises in store. But one thing is clear: 25/8 Transports is a company to watch. Their journey will be fascinating, and it'll tell us a lot about the future of trucking and the evolving landscape of American business.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, we're left with a final provocative question. Is 25/8 simply a clever name, or is it a sign of a deeper shift, a move towards a more human-centered approach to trucking?
Let's explore that question in our final segment.
All right, so we've explored this mystery of 25/8 Transports, analyzed their potential strategies, and even pondered like the deeper meaning of their name, right? But now, let's bring it all back to you, the listener. Why should you care about this one small trucking company? Especially if you're not, in the logistics
Well,
business.
because 25/8's story,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a microcosm of these larger changes that are happening all around us. It's about the impact of technology, the need for sustainable solutions,
Yeah.
the power of diversity,
Hmm.
and the importance of adapting to.
A rapidly evolving world, right? These themes, they're relevant, whether you're an entrepreneur, an investor, a student, or just someone trying to make sense of the future.
Yeah, it's like 25/8 is a case study in real time, showing us how a new company can navigate these challenges and find its place in this complex marketplace. We can learn from their successes, their stumbles, and the decisions they make along the way. Exactly. And one of the most compelling aspects of their story is this idea of a more human-centered approach to trucking. It's easy to get caught up in the hype of, you know, self-driving trucks and AI-powered logistics. But ultimately, this industry is all about people.
Yeah, we're talking about the drivers who spend countless hours on the road, the mechanics who keep the trucks running, the dispatchers who coordinate everything, and the warehouse workers who load and unload the cargo. I mean, they're the backbone of the entire system.
Right. And yet,
Oh,
they're often overlooked, especially in an industry that's facing a driver shortage and struggling to attract new talent. What if 25/8 is part of a larger shift, a movement towards valuing and empowering these individuals, creating a work environment that's, you know, truly supportive and rewarding?
yeah. That would be a game changer, not just for the trucking industry, but for any industry that relies on skilled labor. Imagine a world where companies compete, not just on price or technology, but on how well they treat their employees.
That's a powerful vision, and it's one that 25/8 could help bring to life. Now, we don't know for sure what their internal culture is like, but their commitment to diversity, their potential focus on, driver empowerment through technology, and even their mysterious name suggest a company that's thinking differently.
So here's a thought experiment for you, dear listener. What if, instead of fearing automation and the rise of robots, we embrace technology as a way to, enhance human capabilities? What if, instead of trying to replace drivers, we use AI to make their jobs safer, more efficient, and more fulfilling?
That's the kind of future 25.8 could represent. A future where technology and human ingenuity work hand in hand to create a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous world.
It's an inspiring thought, and it's one that we can all contribute to,
Mhm.
regardless of, our industry or profession, by supporting companies that prioritize their employees, by advocating for policies that protect workers' rights, and by embracing innovation that benefits humanity. We can help shape a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
So as we conclude this deep dive into the world of trucking and the enigmatic 25.8 transports, we leave you with a call to action. Pay attention to the companies you interact with, the products you buy, and the services you use. Ask yourself, are they valuing their employees? Are they contributing to a more sustainable future? Are they part of the solution or part of the problem?
Yeah, your choices matter, and they have the power to shape the world we live in, the future of trucking, like the future of our economy and society. It's not predetermined, it's something we create together through our actions, our decisions, and our unwavering belief in a better tomorrow.
And who knows, maybe someday the cryptic name 25.8 will become a symbol of that brighter future, a reminder that we can always strive to do more, to be
Mhm.
better, and to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to succeed.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.